I thought maybe we'd talk a little bit about tough decisions, things that didn't make it into products. So maybe pick something from Fox 9 or something from VS 2005, a feature that you really wanted or you heard that the community really wanted, and just couldn't make it in. And maybe, why you made the decision to delay or not implement it or push it off to the next version.
Well, I think a lot of the cases, sometimes it could be a big feature. I think in more cases, though, it's usually the particular aspects of a feature that's going in. If it was Visual Foxworld, it might be like the report writer. We're doing a whole lot of things to the report writer, but we can't do everything. So there'll be certain little features that we'd like, and we sit there and prioritize and say, a lot of it kind of comes back to this line from Spock in Star Trek, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And it kind of comes like that in terms of, is this going to impact a lot? How is it going to affect the running application in the end? Sometimes there's issues between productivity features and features that enable you to do something you couldn't do before, like a UI component or some data access thing. Having 2 lines of code workaround, well, that's a pretty good workaround. Maybe we don't need to ship that if you could do it in 2 lines of code. But if it's something you couldn't even do before, well, that's pretty important. And that helps a developer sell the aspect of upgrading, because sometimes the developer has to get approval to use a new version of a developer tool to deploy the app as well.
One feature that I wanted to, that we looked at putting in Visual Studio and ultimately decided not to, was an XQuery editor. Okay?
And we have a prototype.
And the reason we decided not to do that, even though we are doing the XML editor and the XSL editor and debugger, is for a couple of reasons. First of all, we have, limited resources, obviously, so you have to decide. But also, XQuery hasn't been standardized yet.
When you say limited resources, a lot of people have a conception in their mind that Microsoft has unlimited resources. Can you just go into that a little bit?
So, I've got a team of about 30 to 40 people, right? And on my plate is a certain number of things, and I don't just get more people from a, magic box when I need them. I have to put together a justification, and it's got to be a really strong one to add people. There's a certain size that each division is set at, and that's where you are. So while Microsoft itself is a very large company with, thankfully a fairly healthy bottom line, each group stays, and I think quite appropriately, pretty hungry. They always feel, I don't know of any group here that doesn't feel they couldn't do with a few more developers or a few more testers or program managers, etc. And I think that's a good thing, because it really forces you to focus. So in our case, the XQuery editor, since XQuery hasn't been standardized by the W3C, there was too much risk that we might go down a direction that'll then change. And so we decided that, it might make sense to take that prototype down the road and maybe put it out on the web as something that people can download if they're interested in it, as kind of a preview. And that's still being worked on. But then, once everything has standardized, then we can look at it for the next version of Visual Studio.